Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the LCS Academy Spring Split. We just finished getting over Golden Guardians versus TSM, and a very dominating performance coming out of TSM. Not much to be said there.
No, not much to be said outside the fact that Sword is extremely confident going into the rest of the Academy Spring Split. And to be fair, honestly, not much to really argue with him for that, because of just like how well he performed on the Renekton pick. I like the fact that he brought up that they've been flexing these different champion pools in their top and mid lane, because that's not something that a lot of these teams have the luxury of doing because of how diverse the mid lane pool is comparatively to what the current top lane meta is going forward. But with that being said, we have to sort of move on to our final game of the day, which is a nice little breath of fresh air in a sense of importance and weight to the game, with Cloud9 Academy versus Evil Geniuses.
I mean, Cloud9 second place team, Evil Geniuses sixth place team, Evil Geniuses. It weighs a little bit more heavy on them. Cloud9 are pretty much just floating on Cloud9 as they go through this. But getting into the rosters a little bit, Cloud9 Academy, they have picked up Darshan now. And even though he struggled in previous Academy seasons, he's been looking better than he's ever looked before.
Yeah, and we were talking about this before the day started, that you were mentioning how you've been really impressed with Darshan and how he's been really making a name for himself, giving a good argument on why he should be back in the LCS pit. And I'm on the other side of saying he is a legit puppet, and King and Schernfire are just telling him where to go, and they have been absolutely dominating the macro game in this spring split. And the thing is it's not a bad thing to say about Darshan either way. He understands his position in the games. He knows where he needs to be, and he understands those limitations. And it also feeds into the fact that Schernfire and King are just going leaps and bounds above other teams. The macros that they set up, the objective priority, and the team fight positioning that they're able to work around and create these situations to where there's really no out for their opponent, even like the one as we're seeing against Immortals, just shows how immaculate and how complex Cloud9 can be when it comes to these in-game plays.
Yeah, it's some beautiful stuff. You were talking about King. King is phenomenal. You can tell he wants to be a contender for the LCS. Outstanding performances week in, week out. Last week, in week number 3, 7.3 KDA. The dude can put on a display. He can position well, and he can get kill after kill after kill. Schernfire complements that so well, and they just seem like a well-coordinated team who's developing all that synergy together.
And of course, you've got some nice Oceanic imports as well. Like you have also Isles, who's been doing fairly well under King's wing and has sort of been doing the same thing, in my opinion, as Darshan, where he understands his limitations, and as long as he goes by the captain's tails, that he will also be able to really pull out those good wins and also be a star performer in his own right, as long as he is able to keep that performance going. They had that one hiccup against CLG Academy earlier in the season, but that's not something you really need to sort of punish them for. That was much more them still sort of finding out the finer details of their team identity and this sort of team philosophy, where a team that has that struggle currently and is still dealing with that now is Evil Geniuses Academy.
Yeah, Evil Geniuses Academy in the 6th place spot right now. It's definitely been a rough road for them looking back at the last couple of weeks that they've had in play. I mean, they've lost to Golden Guardians. They were able to get a win against 100 Thieves in week 3 of play, but it's very back and forth with them. They're consistently inconsistent when it comes to their play.
That's a good way to put it. I'm gonna write that down in my notes. Consistently inconsistent. Like, it's something that I guess you could say you flip the coin and either heads or tails, you still know what you're going to get by like before the time the coin even lands on its head. So with that being said, it's something where Evil Geniuses, they have some veteran voices, but these are veteran voices that have fallen from grace. I'm looking at Shoryu, who's been an Academy resident since 2018, Contracts, who had his huge spurt up into the LCS and has sort of fallen ever so gently down back into Academy. These voices, though very strong and can be very formidable when they do get those leads, they're very momentum focused. And if the early game or the mid game goes awry, or if a team fight goes a little bit too haywire, it's very easy for those support beams to fall underneath them, and Evil Geniuses as a whole starts to crumble.
Yeah, Evil Geniuses just, looking back at everything they've been doing, They're trying their best to really raise this roster, but it feels like there's no distinctive cohesion. I mean,
Mhm.
you do get some like good performances every now and then. I think Jojo Pion is one of the best players to look at when you are looking at
Yep.
Evil Geniuses, but that's about it. That's all they have about going. Everything else is just either hit, miss. Maybe we do it, maybe we don't. Let's find out next time.
Yeah. Well, though the one thing that I am worried about, one of those support pillars, as a matter of fact, for Evil Geniuses Academy is in fact their support in Mystiques. He is someone that I've been talking with other analysts and other experts of the scene, and they're saying that he is the biggest. I'd have to say Achilles heel for Evil Geniuses Academy. His positioning fights, his roaming on off-tempo plays, his resets are always a little bit awkward. And even though Shoryu is there to sort of help neutralize the laning phase where it doesn't get too out of control, it just takes one or two quick mistakes, sort of like Keel, where he just goes off-plan by just a hair, and the opposing team is able to punish him to the maximum potential.
And if Evil Geniuses want to punish somewhere, it has to be over towards that top side and trying to tilt the Darshan like we've seen in the previous seasons. But the thing is, they don't really have much to work with. You were talking about Mystiques. Jojo Pion can do quite a bit, but he's a mid laner. He needs to be opened up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's weird, right? Because it's like you have this very big detriment that you need to address on the bottom side, but you do need to cut those strings away from Darshan as well. Something that being so distant from each other, not just geographically on the Rift, but also philosophically on how the teams want to play, and if the draft even accommodates for that, is a huge question. And that's something that will be addressed in the draft once we jump into that. Though with Cloud9 Academy, you can sort of create this nice expectation of how they draft, is saying, okay, this is a very obvious win condition that they're going to be going for. They execute to it properly, and though sometimes they are slow to get rolling, it's very difficult to stop that train from just completely steamrolling over you if you are Evil Geniuses Academy and allow Cloud9 to play by their rulebook.
I mean, Darshan is a historic player when it comes to the LCS, even playing since what was it? The season 3 we had LCS running. And one of the biggest things he's always been known for is if you are able to give him an advantage, he will split push a team to death. That is one of the things he absolutely loves to do. It's in his champion pool. He loves the Camille, he loves the Jax champions like those. So stopping that will be pivotal for EG, but Darshan, once he gets rolling, it is hard to stop him. That is for sure.
And the one thing that actually really helps Darshan get to that point is Fire, someone who is probably the best jungler currently in the Academy split and in the Academy rosters as well. He has been a Oceania prospect for a fairly long time. He's also had some coaching experience in Oceania as well. So it's something where he has not only been able to be a player with a voice, but also a support member and a coach where he understands both how to train players and sort of groom them to a specific philosophy that he abides by, and because of that, the rest of the team is very easy to follow suit. Not to mention he's been working with Spawn and King as well, so it's just so many familiar faces that he has in those pockets that he can open up his pool of champions, pick things like the Nocturne, like the Kindred, where he can really just be that mastermind to craft around these team fights and create the composition and the environment for him to be as strategic as possible.
And that's one of the most fun things about watching Fire, him pulling out picks like that. The Nocturne especially, I always love seeing a good Nocturne in League of Legends. But Cloud9's dynamic is pretty much Fire enables, then Darshan will enable the team afterwards. I'm trying to see a dynamic that I find out of Evil Geniuses, but we talked about the inconsistencies with them. But they do have some strengths where we can find. Jojo Pun was the biggest one, but you do have a lot of experience in that bot lane with Shoryu. You talked about him being an Academy resident, played on TLA for a very long time, so he does have a lot of experience underneath his belt.
I'd be looking towards contracts in Jojo Pion. I think you're on the right track there, that you need these two to really get the ball rolling. Jojo Pion also has a very extensive champion pool. He's been playing the set mids that we've seen, that though it didn't do too well in the end result, he still held his own and he did his job to a very efficient effect, and it allows him to play around contracts, who contracts is starting to become more and more dependent on those lane performances. And if Jojo Pion is allowed to facilitate that and say, hey, I've always got your back if you're looking for those counter invades, I'm always going to be there with the neutral objective and the mid priority, then it gives that confidence for contracts to continue doing that shot calling that he has learned over his experience of the LCS and Academy seasons that he's been in, to then help pick up the rest of the team and sort of do what King and Surenfire have been doing in Cloud9 Academy, and maybe pull out a win here if they do find that upset.
I would love to see it go through. We always love to see a good upset. We saw it with CLG. It's going to be a tough one to see if Evil Geniuses can pull it through. We talked about the tall order they're going through, but infrastructure does play a big part in esports as well. Cloud9 is a very established team with lots of resources to keep these players growing and progressing, while Evil Geniuses, they are fairly new to the League of Legends scene now.
Oh, for sure. And there is the little bit of difference in the player coach being converted with Coach Matt coming in for Evil Geniuses, and then Cloud9 having just sort of more of every single person being part of a different coaching facility. Also, not to mention, I'd have to say, like you said, the sort of developing team that Cloud9 Academy has is immaculate, and it's at this point where the only member we haven't really touched base on, which we can sort of flip for Evil Geniuses Academy, is going to be Copy, someone who has a little bit more of a refined champion pool, but has always been able to do the exact same thing of pulling out an efficient laning phase to get into that mid game, where he also can create those wonderful zones of pressure to allow that win condition for Cloud9 to always be a possibility.
So now we are in the final game of the day, Cloud9 versus Evil Geniuses, the draft now underway. I'm definitely expecting to see a little bit of a little bit towards the top side, just because of Darshan and what we had talked about earlier with his ability to run away with the game. If the Renekton gets banned away, as well as the Udyr, and yeah, that's it. 5 for 5. Udyr's not seeing the map anymore. Goodbye.
I'm glad there's no boomer hands in Academy. That's not something I'd be really excited for when I'm looking. I'm not looking.
You're telling me you don't like right click to win?
I am totally down for run stun job done. However, when I am looking for talented prospects to get into my LCS team, if I am a fantasy LCS owner, I want someone who can do the crazy Yasuo plays and the crazy Akali flanks and the wacky Elise Wombo combos. I want that, and the fact that Udyr is gone, thank goodness. Another thing that we're not going to be able to see today is also the Nidalee is now going to be gone. Seraphine is also taken away, and we are getting a nice tease because with that Jax ban, I'm thinking Camille is going to be in the sights for Darshan in the first rotation.
It could very well be in the sights. It's, I believe, his most played champion in the season so far. So, yeah, expect Darshan to start looking in that direction. EG, one more ban to go. They did get rid of the toothless Seraphine, so thank goodness for that. Not to see her on the red. I believe she's 5 for 5 as well on bans. Oh. But no, EG, they're the wiser to it. Taking away the Camille, say no to Darshan. Darshan says, give me Gnar.
All right, fine. Gnar it is. Another good side pusher. Also has the great counter activity to deal with any of those top lanes that they throw at them, whether it be a tank or it be more of a fighter. And this leaves something open for Tony Top that he hasn't touched yet. He has only been able to play the Jax, the Renekton, and the Gnar, and this is going to be a new pickup for him. So I'm going to think Evil Geniuses Academy is going to give them a little bit of time to figure out what they want Tony Top to pilot in that situation. While the rest of that, the Rel, really love seeing that come into fruition and starting to be in the current meta with the Kai'Sa going to be locked in. I'm actually so surprised on how much Kai'Sa has been picked on red side that she hasn't been prioritized in other situations. But with the arguments that these teams have had where they've been more top side focused, I can't complain too much, as Misfortune is the second pickup for Cloud9.
I mean, there's a lot of aggressive supports. Kai'Sa supports it quite well. MF gets locked in over on the side of C9 Academy. You get the bullet time, and there's a little bit of team play that goes on with the draft of C9A so far. Curious what they're going to go with next. Support pool's already grabbed out. You do have the Rel locked in, and there's still a lot left on the table. Syndra will be locked in for Copy in the mid lane.
It's a good blind pick, and I'm actually really glad that a lot of these Academy teams are starting to pick up the blind pick Syndra again. It's something that has sort of been late to call, to be honest, because they used to be Orianna, and it's something where also a lot of these mid laners just play Syndra. They play her in solo queue, they play her in competitive situations, and she's just a good neutral pickup for any of these teams to always have that mid priority, and also mid lethality as well, to always have that sense of getting a snowball rolling. Jojo Pion finalizing that Hecarim pickup for contracts, so we still have a lot of that team fight initiation. And with how these picks have been, how we've seen Rel, Kai'Sa, Hecarim all have been picked up in the same transition, it's always telling of that go in team fight composition, but how will the laning phase go? Because that is where that struggle may come in tandem for Evil Geniuses later down the line.
Second phase of the draft, Kindred will be taken off the table.
Yep.
That Hecarim locked in. It's another good contracts champion, but it's pretty much all he has left since Pantheon's been nerfed away. And it kind of makes me sad because I'm personally a Pantheon lover myself. So
Yeah,
Hecarim gets like clippity cloppity, get off my property. Orianna gets removed in for C9A.
Azir is still available. I wouldn't put that past Jojo Pion. The other one I would be considering would be Silas or maybe Yone. I like either of those two would be okay with, but this is where Evil Geniuses has sort of backed themselves into a corner saying, okay, we've got our solo lanes we need to figure out. Thankfully for us, Gnar is already selected, so we can R4 our top lane and then leave that final counter pick for Jojo Pion, as Nocturne being taken away as well. There is a specific Wild West shotgunner still available on the board. But both, like, this is where Surenfire could grab that Graves B4, and then they could finalize out their support B5. And I feel like that's, like, really the way to go, outside of maybe finding an Engager or a possible, like, power farming jungler. But every single time I think of that, it's like, well, Graves is available, like, you could go Echo if you want to be really spicy, but outside of this, Evil Geniuses, yeah, this is a nice counteraction for them, saying Silas that can flex mid as well, and still has a good matchup into Gnar on that top side.
So I want to know what Isles is going to pick on this one. Just simply because Isles tends to be one of the few supports who does like the more Enchanter supports every now and then.
Yeah.
To be fair, he still loves the Leona. Engagers are the way to go, but
if you want to go Enchanter's Destrix, I would say Karma. Karma would be a pretty decent pick, but you don't have a really big front line, so you need something in that front end to help peel for the rest of your team. One of those champions, I'd have to say, Leona is still on the board, but I would be thinking Braum. Like, I think this is something that Cloud9 could play some more macro style. They still do need that engagement. So Leona and the Thresh being locked in were both available. But with this lock in, it's something that is not a definitive engagement like Leona per se, but it is to be more of that macro style, to manage these skirmishes a little bit more and always have that utility for these more immobile ADC or marksmen and carries like Copy and King to always reposition and prepare themselves. But with that final lock-in, we gave Evil Geniuses enough time to figure out what they wanted in the top side of the map, and it's going to be Wukong.
It's time for some monkey business. Wukong gets locked at the top. I always get excited when I see Wukong. Ever since they've done the changes to him, he can be hell to deal with in a fight, especially when you have the clone doing the Cyclone now. So Tony Top, very happy to go in the top lane with the monkey.
Just trying to think of how well this lane priority goes over for Evil Geniuses, because like you mentioned, Darshan has been having an immaculate performance in these weak side top matchups. And if Tony Top isn't able to deal with that and does fall to the wayside of just a Gnar, you're in trouble. You are in a very dire straits for Evil Geniuses, because then you look to Jojo Pion, who, though I'm going to be expecting him going for the fleet footwork just for that lane sustain against Copy, who will be harassing him with the Syndra Qs coming in left and right. It leaves you into that odd state of not having definitive lane prio to set up for early neutral objectives, and it gives Cloud9 Academy a lot of freedom to sneak those away, for Surenfire to solo the Dragon, solo the Rift Herald, and then really sort of drown you out of any additional options to snowball you into the mid game, where this team fighting composition that Evil Geniuses has would thrive.
The only fault I see with Evil Geniuses, more than anything else, is it's just very R-dependent at the end of the day when they do want to go for these skirmishes. I mean, Kai'Sa does what Kai'Sa things do, but you still need the Rel, Silas, Hecarim, and the Wukong to all make a significant impact when it comes to fighting over Rift Herald, fighting over the Drakes.
Exactly, and that's something where, because of that pre-6 stall that Evil Geniuses has, that they don't really have the tools to fight or skirmish effectively against Cloud9 Academy's composition, you have this luxury to always have that mid lane priority, and top lane or bottom per se, whichever you choose, for Surenfire to sort of dictate and really set up these objective sneaks and take the game ever so slowly into Cloud9's court. And Evil Geniuses is sort of left to that sense of, look, we have to power farm to level 6. We need to steal the correct ultimate here for Jojo Pion to find either a quick assassination or some quick zoning pressure for him to really get this ball rolling. But if Evil Geniuses plays Cloud9's game, it's really easy for EG to just go absolutely bonkers and just roll over Cloud9's comp.
I mean, imagine if Cloud9 are the ones engaging into Evil Geniuses. That could be hell right there.
True.
Getting a look at the starts right now. Both junglers going to start bot side. Graves will have a bit of a tempo advantage just because Graves does Graves' thing. Wild West brings out the shotgun, clears the waves in no time at all. We'll watch the pathing of Surenfire and see where he chooses to end up at.
Decides to ignore his Krugs and go straight to the top side, or upper quadrant here for his blue buff and wolves. And just to sort of keep track of where Contracts is, and also to be faster to the draw when Scuttle does spawn. He'll be able to clear out that top side, and just with how Copy and Darshan are positioning themselves in their lanes, they will be the ones that can answer first to the Scuttle contention if that does arrive, where Contracts will have to make that awkward hike back down to the bottom side of the river and look for that other Scuttle if he does not want to get double crabbed here by Surenfire.
And this is the part that makes it rough as well, because you're getting lane priority for Cloud9, both in the mid lane and the top lane. So he gets no backup. He does have to double back if he does want to not miss out on the scuttle.
And look at how bot is. Like, bot's pushed up against their turret as well. This is just a situation that, because of that pre-6 handicap and because of this lack of lane priority, it is really easy for Surenfire to just go absolutely bonkers with this over jungle pressure. But Contracts decides to focus lanes first and forces a flash out of Copy.
Yeah, not willing to go after Surenfire, gets the flash out, but Jojo Pion's going to take a lot of damage meanwhile as well. Contracts, realizing that that top side is completely forfeit, is going to try and make a bid to get that bot side Scuttle Crab. But the roam up is coming from the bot lane of Cloud9, so even though Contracts is on here, backup is on the way, and there it is. King, as well as Isles, able to show up to make sure the mid laner stays healthy. And now the counter engage comes through. Surenfire shoots out the end of the line, can't find much else other than the scatter the weak. Contracts is running low, and first blood comes in. Copy will grab it.
It's okay, Isles. I saw you hook that minion. You still got the first blood assist as you're able to get the kill for Copy with the stun and the lockdown from Surenfire and King, respectively. And this was the big worry that we were talking about of this double crab potential that Surenfire could pick up early on. I respect the fact that Contras is trying to go for this, but it's that overextension of being overzealous to try and get an early lead that puts them on the back foot. And a wonderful stun with just enough mana to get that locked in. And Contracts fortunately falls and gives the double buffs over to Copy. And now in this stage, it's the one win condition that we were talking about, of Jojo Pion having a stable mid lane that is now in a very dire straits position for him to try and get out of it at level 6, look for some advantages, look to see if he can swing back some kills here or there on this Sylas, and try and win back and force a team fighting situation for Cloud9 Academy to try and address.
I mean, with all the pressure right there, he'd be lucky if he gets out at level 18.
True.
Copy is just pressuring this lane, constant harassment, constantly shoving it in, and making sure that Jojo Pion can have no effect on this game whatsoever. Now looking over on the top side, CS Diff is really starting to outwork Darshan. He's racking in the gold and he's getting the harassment. Will take the recall and be able to get a purchase in that item advantage.
Gets that recall, we'll see what he grabs. I also want to see if Darshan holds his TP or if he just goes straight back with it. Okay, decides to go with the TP because it's all about that congestion for that Ocean Dragon as well. And because King and Isles are always in the priority lane for this bottom side of the map, Cloud9 Academy doesn't need to hold this TP for Darshan to try and challenge this dragon. You can still sneak it out whenever you so choose, and it's still before level 6. There's no way Contracts can try and even contest it if Surenfire even looks to try and take that objective.
And now Tony, taking his recall, doesn't want to do anything else with Darshan. He doesn't want that item advantage to wreak too much havoc for him, so he'll grab one of his own on the recall. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Jojo Pion goes after Copy. Scatter the Weak is going to find the stun. Ultimate has been stolen away. Jojo Pion looking to put an unleashed power of his own onto Copy, and Contracts going to show up just to push the wave.
We'll push it underneath turret, so they have some mid priority to challenge this Ocean Dragon when Surenfire looks to this bottom quadrant of the map. The pushback from Evil Geniuses, they understand that this objective is on the line, and I respect them for trying to push this one out. It's just a question of how the resets will come in tandem, because we just saw Contracts and Jojo Pion reset. They know that the TP isn't available, and they look to make a play on this bottom
Death
side.
Sentence lands going after Isle, and here comes Contracts. Shoryu is able to back up thanks to the help of Mystique's running interference.
And Shoryu forces flash and heal, as you said. with this, that priority just goes completely over to Cloud9 Academy once again. Thankfully, Contracts is in this bottom end. Can always hold on to try and challenge this Ocean Drake if it does come quicker than they expect, but you need to get to this level 6. It is so key for them to grab that, and Tony Top had just grabbing his. Jojo Pyun had his as well in that earlier mid-game sort of scuffle. And looking now, Contracts, seeing if you can find this game.
Contracts looking to show up. The interference is being run into the wall is Isles, but here comes the smoke screen denying a lot of vision, and the damage is coming in. There's the collateral damage. Finds a kill, 1-for-1. Contracts throws on the Ghost. Killer Instinct goes out. Fire runs critically low, about 100 health on everyone. End of the line, almost finished off. Shoryu, health bars blinking so red, so close was that fight in the bot lane.
Yep, and Contracts is looking to see if he can grab Fire potentially. No, decides to call it off, says no. King has just hit level 6. We need to call this one off, and it was just quick level ups coming in from Evil Geniuses that sort of helps keep them in that tempo play. They got the kill onto Isles. It gives Contracts that level up to get Onslaught of Shadows, helps disperse the members of King and Fire a little bit more. But King was still level 5 during all of that. Shoryu hit level 6 to sort of help re-engage and stay alive just a little bit longer with the shield coming in from his ultimate. And what was looking very disastrous for Evil Geniuses Academy does come out on top for them. They get to hold their mid and bottom priority. They get to deny the Ocean Dragon being taken away from Cloud9 Academy, and the state of neutrality is favorable for them because they need to get out of it to force those team fights later on.
But Coco, we keep having the same issue here. It's been game after game after game where one side is giving all their kills to support. Mystique's picking up that kill that last bit. Not again, he says. Again. Yeah, it's the story of Academy today. Killer supports on the run.
It's supportal combat, and you know I'm a fan of the Doa trend, bringing that up. But it's at a stage where you have these ADCs and these mid laners that need those kills dumped on top of them, and thankfully Copy was the one that was able to pick up the first blood earlier on, and that's sort of the importance of where the kill is going, where that gold is dumped. Because sure, you have a 2,000 gold deficit that Evil Geniuses needs to sort of catch up on, and Cloud9 is just sort of taking in strides with. But it's also the fact that that gold deficit is a little bit skewed because of where that additional pump of gold from that one kill on EG does go. And in that end, the mythic items may be a little bit delayed. The challenge for the Rift Herald or the Ocean Dragon may not be as favorable for EG because of that. And so with that, Fire and Copy can now continue to just manage this river as much as they want and then address these objectives when Contracts is absent.
Contracts hovering over the Rift Herald as Fire is going to start it up. Okay. The Contracts slip on by there. He's actually going for the engage on mid lane. Will not find it. Onslaught of Shadows went off, but it did burn the flash of Copy all meanwhile.
Yeah, I call that a win for Cloud9. You forced a summoner, sure, but Copy has just been playing extremely passive in this lane anyways. Like, he understands when Contracts is in the vicinity for him to just sort of play a little bit more back and play in a passive position, and it allows Fire to take this Rift Herald free of charge, and they can go ahead and honestly, I'd say drop it bottom. Like, just throw it on King and Isles, crack open this lane, because we were talking about the Achilles heel of Evil Geniuses is this performance of Shoryu and Mystique. These are the two players that are extremely dependent on tempo and momentum performance and are very easy to fall to the wayside if those support beams start to crumble.
Not to mention, if you get King going, he can go. He knows proper positioning. He is a stud on this team. So we're going to see if they do go for that. What's going to be going for is TP. The death sentence. Finds it onto Mystique. Here comes the teleport coming through. It's going to be Copy showing up with the unleashed power going on to Shoryu. Shoryu will be able to back off with Killer Instinct, but here's another teleport. The Wukong is here, able to get the double knock up on the Copy, but will not get the kill. Meanwhile, on the backside of that fight, King will fall. It's going to be a double going over the Contracts, and Evil Geniuses, they're finding the marks now. They got 2 unanswered kills into their pockets.
And with that, they're able to open up this bottom lane for themselves and grab this Ocean Dragon to boot. A great call from Tony Top to jump back into this fight and really turn the tides. Cloud9 Academy was looking like they had a hold of it, but then an awkward positioning of King being off on his own, disconnected into the alcove, and the rest of the team not having enough damage to really close out any kills onto Mystiques or Contracts themselves, just goes to show that you need to get some additional damage pumped into these carries and really get them online. And because of this counteract play that Evil Geniuses was able to get, it throws a little wrench into the gears, and because of this interesting position here from Contracts, this nice little charge that we'll be looking at fairly shortly. Also, Tony Top coming in as well. He finds Isles all the way through, and because of that, divides the members of Cloud9 Academy. King is left on his own, and from here, it's a lost cause. So, because of Tony Top and Contracts creating that wedge to break open C9 Academy, they're able to take this win and possibly try and swing back some kind of advantage. They have a little bit of an economy they still need to catch up on. There's 1,000 gold discrepancy, sure, but as long as they're able to get some river control back into their pockets, that will be an absolute win for EG.
Speaking of economy, I want to look at the top lane and the CS differential going on there, because there's 40 minions separating Tony Top and Darshan right now. Darshan CSing phenomenally and denying a lot of that farm from Tony Top.
Yeah, unfortunate that Tony didn't get a kill for his teleport down bot, so he's just sort of stuck in this awkward phase of having to deal with Darshan once again, who did also get those turret plates, as you mentioned. And this is where Schernfire, he still has the Herald. I'm not too worried about this. Copy's dead, but it's
nice.
A bummer.
Nice little unleashed power, but it's the other way around. Jojo Pyun using it on to Copy.
It's a little bit of a bummer for Copy, who's been playing so passive for so long, and finally the weaknesses fall out. He did not have a flash available, but wow, this fight is going for a while.
Oh, they're going WWE down here, and King will fall. Shoryu grabs the kill. Schernfire just shows up defensively. Not much he can do. Evil Geniuses keep taking kills and running.
And that's where we wanted to open up and get some river control back into Evil Genius's hands. And the fact that they're able to now 2v2 against King and Isles and come out on top with no lives lost is an absolute win for EG. And with the mid lane losing as well, the only issue now that they have to address is Tony Top on this top side of the map. This is where Schernfire drops that Herald just to make sure that he can get these turret plates before they fall to the wayside in the next 20 seconds. So give some extra gold to him and Copy, respectively. And does he get that other plate? Oh, Copy did not get that third plate procced over, so a little bit of gold lost away to Cloud9 Academy.
I like what Contracts has been doing here. He knows that Syndra is rather immobile, and there's not really much you can do to stop the onslaught of shadows. Once the flash is burnt, it's very easy to catch her, even if she is under her tower with the raw damage that you have coming out of the Silas. So really trying to shut down Copy in the mid lane.
3 members up top for Evil Geniuses, seeing if they could try and push Darshan out a little farther. And this is just a quick replay of how this Evil Geniuses engagement went on the bottom side of the map. That was just King stepping a little bit too far. I think we caster cursed him because you mentioned that King has been immaculate in his positioning in team fights, and this is probably the oddest King I've seen yet out of the bunch.
Yeah, this one was a really weird fight to turn into and just see how long it was going on between the ADCs and supports wailing away.
It shows that you do kind of need a third man almost for Cloud9 Academy to convincingly start to win these lanes back into their favor. Like, sure, they are still out macroing Cloud9 Academy for the most part, but that only goes so far because of how many kills have now been granted over to Evil Geniuses. A kill over to Jojo Pyun, to Shoryu, 2 to Contracts. Those are the key members that we were talking about to get that additional gold. And with those mythic items now finally coming into fruition, they have that power spike advantage to pressure for the Rift Herald that will spawn shortly, as well as the Dragon that will spawn in the next minute. Now it's just a matter of fact if Evil Geniuses can really sort of pressure that advantage, or will Cloud9 find it?
They're going to try and pressure that advantage. They jump right on the Sternfire. Lantern will get him to safety. Copy trying to find a long way out of this. Wants to flash over the wall and finds himself alive still. His whole body intact. No scars left over. Evil Genius is forced to engage. They can't quite get it, but they do get quite a few summoner spells.
This time around, it is Darshan who will have the TP priority in the top side of the map for this Dragon. Tony Top will not have it available. And at this stage, I think that you can just forfeit this with EG. Like, you've lost your priority. That one fight that you tried to look for did get tossed over, and Cloud9 Academy was able to win that pressure contention. Just reset, take this Herald, get some vision control, push Darshan away from that turret, give Tony Top a little bit of time to farm for himself. He is 60 CS down, by the way. Like, for context, 16 CS is about as much gold value as a kill. 16, 1-6. That is a lot. Whew, that's a 2k gold diff. That's the discrepancy that Evil Geniuses needs to address here. And that's where You just hit that reset, you go grab that Herald, you crack open that top turret, you force Darshan to play a little bit safer, you give Tony Top that breath of fresh air. Or you throw him somewhere else. You crack open this mid lane to make sure Shoryu and Mystiques can be in this mid lane, and you do the 1-2-1 situation where you have Tony Top and Jojo Pun playing those side lanes. They can 1v1 fairly well, nonetheless, and you give that breath of fresh air again to Tony Top to try and catch up in the CS department. So this is where Evil Geniuses has different strategies to approach this this next proactive stage for the next 3 minutes, but they are just slowly getting to that point. It's a little bit slower than I'd want it to, but this is Evil Geniuses. They're 2-4. They're a team that is still trying to figure themselves out as a philosophy. And with those delays, I give them a pass because they are still holding that tempo control, even with that slight economy deficit.
You were talking about Darshan being a puppet earlier in the day, and I think that's something Cloud9 could use right now. Darshan hasn't had much of an impact, at least in the team fighting phase. He's been CSing quite a bit, and all that gold, it needs to be transferred. King is in need of his hero Darshan, and instead King will just take his hero, the Lantern, over with Isles.
Oh, very close call. Jojo Pion might have been able to get a solo kill for himself if Isles did not throw out the Thresh Express in just the moment's time, but he's sticking around. He's trying to see if he can get another sneaky kill onto King, who's still left on his own.
He tried to read it.
Ooh.
He tried to read it. He was almost on point right there. But King, the wiser, just does a sidestep. You know, Contracts would love to just force an engage. Onslaught of Shadows lets him dive all the way back there.
He does have that Rift Herald in his back pocket, so if they could have found a kill onto King and then opened up that bottom side of the map a little bit more for Jojo Pion to pressure forward, that would have been a really nice advantage for them to find. But at this moment, they had to play a little bit of Cloud9's game. They said, all right, let's take the fight to them.
Forced engage, Onslaught of Shadows, and deleted his copy. Darshan will get Mega Gnar soon, and that is why you're starting to see the retreat come in. But Jojo Pion's willing to steal the Gnar ult. Now Darshan getting closer, still has the walls available. Here comes the bullet time onto the back line. Here comes Tony Top, able to stop the bullet time from going through. A double knockup to come in, but finds nothing else other than the disengage. Cloud9 trying to survive, but Evil Geniuses are taking it to them as they take down Copy.
Oh, can they stop this Herald before it breaks the turret? It will not happen. Darshan will have to retreat away from this tier 1, and this is what we were talking about for Evil Geniuses. Break open this mid lane, get these side lanes under control for Tony Top to not only catch up, but to find those flanks as well, and he found it immaculately. However, even with all of that debacle going through, Tony Top is still not participated in a kill yet, and he is back to confining with having to do a solo lane against either Copy or against Darshan. He gets to pick his poison, but he does have to go back to that side lane duty, and this is sort of how well Cloud9 Academy can work and manage team fights. They only lost one member, but that was because all of the resources were just tossed directly at Copy and said, you know what, you die here, right now. Mystiques and Contracts solidified that statement with their ultimates. But no one else died off of Cloud9 Academy. Isles was able to peel King and Shrinkfire effectively. Darshan was a good spacer. And even if Tony Top found that flank, it almost became a moot point. And now they're able to re-challenge this mid lane turret back into Cloud9's court.
What did Tony Top do to Evil Geniuses to be put into solitary confinement like this?
Absolutely nothing.
That's actually the right answer.
True, that's the right answer.
Yeah, absolutely nothing. Hasn't been able to do anything in this game, and now setting up for the mid lane is going to be C9A. Just a slither of health remains in that mid lane tower, but they're unable to get any closer. It's too dangerous, especially when you have someone like Contracts in the wing who will go in a heartbeat.
Do you have to keep a warning? 45 seconds until the next dragon will spawn, and it's not going to be soul point for anyone, but the fact that it is another Infernal Soul here is really going to help open both either Evil Geniuses or Cloud9, where you can really apply some massive macro pressure from Cloud9 with that Infernal Soul, just the constant harassment and the poke and the additional AoE burst that would be coming out during team fights. But Evil Geniuses, it just doubles down on their win conditions, and if they are able to grab this one and start to threaten soul point and soul contentions for Cloud9 Academy, it forces them to play their game, and Cloud9 can't play by their real rule book. This is the flank that we're looking for Evil Geniuses Academy. Can they find this good engagement?
Trying to go in, Contract's taking his time,
Oh,
but
no.
the engage comes out of Cloud9 onto
Oh,
Mystiques. Mystiques will fall to King, but here comes the monkey, able to spin and knock up only King. It buys some time, but they can't get close enough. The bullet time goes through. Jojo Pyun will be fed to the wolves. Now Isles on the hunt for Tony Top. Tony Top, you're not long for this world, man. Burning, burning, burning. Will he survive? The answer is going to be no. One more auto, we'll see it, and Fire will be the one to deliver it. Cloud9 able to get some momentum in this game as they go after the Drake.
And a wonderful disengagement there from Isles and Darshan. That in their favor. Not to mention, this was the King positioning that we were looking for. His laning phase, it's a little bit of a different story, but once we got into that mid-game fight, he was able to find that correct position, drop down a 3-man bullet time, and rip the members of Evil Geniuses Academies to shred. The other thing to point out as well was Mystique's positioning. I was talking about how sure you can sort of tame and deal with the laning phase with Mystiques, but once you get out of it, it's these weird positions and these odd flanks where he's maybe just a little bit too extended, or he gets caught just a little bit early before his engagement, that everything goes awry, and the rest of Evil Geniuses had to scramble to make amends for that consequence.
And at least Tony Top finally has a number in his scoreboard, so
True.
We're making progress.
It's not the one we wanted, but it's a one we get, I suppose.
Well, it also shows what happens when Darshan's finally able to take that massive gold lead he's acquired and take it to somewhere else on the map other than just in that solo lane.
Yeah. But with that, you know, like, it's this weird stage of saying you look at the board and you say, wow, that's still a pretty big discrepancy. Then you look down and you're saying, oh, okay, there's a pretty big discrepancy in contracts and Schernfire. Schernfire has been out farming just immaculately on this Graves, and the only real good hope right now is Jojo Pyun. And again, it reiterates, you need Jojo Pyun to find those good picks, to get onto King or to get onto Coffee and obliterate them with these stolen ultimates. And you have to think of like which ultimates would be great. I'm looking at maybe the Meganar ultimate to steal that away, to just like get 2 members backed into a wall, throw them in, deny their ultimates, and for Jojo Pyun to get those kills to lock them down for the rest of EGA to really pressure upon. But there's nothing else really. Like if he could single target assassinate, but then you have either King or Copy to deal with, you have Schernfire and Contracts looking to try and apply some extra pressure. You don't have all your members here, but Cloud9 might have all theirs.
King is fighting tooth and nail. He's actually going to be able to make it out of this alive as he does the bullet time to delete Shoryu. Mystiques will follow him. Now Darshan showing up to the fight. He's going to hobble on in, throw that boomerang, and get the slows on the Contracts, get the autos to score kill number 3 for Cloud9 in this team fight. And Cloud9, the Rift is their oyster. They can take whatever they see fit.
I am so confused. Why would he go for that? Like, I understand that you need to be proactive, you need to make a play, but you were already playing in a 3v4, and both Jojo Pyun and Tony Top were not in a prime position to TP engage for that fight, and now because of that, Contracts' decisions are now falling to the wayside. They might be able to get a pickup onto Darshan, sure, but you're going to have to chase down this big old chunky Meganar who's going to be able to hop over walls, do whatever he wants, throw literal giant icebergs at you. And it allows that time for Cloud9 Academy to take the Baron, and all 5 members with Baron online. What's the best thing that a macro-focused team wants? All 5 members getting that power play.
And this team fight was a little bit of a head-scratcher here.
Yeah.
I was so sure
Like,
King was dead to rights before he got that bullet time.
Look at these TPs. Tony Top TPs already after the fight's already done, and Jojo Pyun is also scrambling for his to try and cut off Darshan. This is just something that Contracts, I respect the fact that you need to make a play, but he went so far deep and there were no real flank wards for them to help double down on. And by the time that they did, it's stuff like this where it's like someone's already dead, you can't make an additional play. Like you look at where the 2 wards were in the mid lane, those were dropped during the fight. And that's because they needed TPs to jump to. But Tony Top and Jojo Pyun had already made that focus. And now because of one misstep, one hiccup, Cloud9 is taking everything that Evil Geniuses has ever known.
Even when Evil Geniuses had the kill lead, they were always behind in gold. Cloud9's macro has been beautiful in this game thus far. Now they got the inhibitor in the mid lane. They're looking at this turret in the bot lane. Going to be able to take that and continue this siege, because why not? You have a Baron empowered push working for you. This team is occupied.
this. Bring that in. Nice death
Out of the way.
sentence.
Here comes the bullet time. Shoryu jumps in, but the jungler's already down, and so is the turret for Evil Geniuses. Now Mystique jumps in, tries to find the backline, gets a lot of disruption. The Wukong ult is doing work. It's able to get the knockups, but the damage cannot follow. Tony Top goes down. It's a shutdown, and Jojo Pyun will join his top laner in the respawn. Cloud9 have suddenly turned this game on its head, and they're looking to close it out right here, right now. And they're going to end it with one more juicy kill, deliver the ace. It's going to be Shoryu falling. Cloud9 have done it 14-7, 26 minutes into this game. Cloud9 take the win.
And Darshan may have given Tony Top solitary confinement, but Isles had given Evil Geniuses the death sentence and just sent them straight packing. No pun intended on that one with the Thresh pickup, but a wonderful play from Cloud9 Academy. They had a rocky start in the laning phase for King and Isles because of how well Contract and Tony Top were able to create that wedge during that bottom fight earlier in the game. But after that, there was very little proactivity coming in from Evil Geniuses, and when there was, it was delayed and it was very slow to come into fruition, and it allowed Cloud9 Academy to get back to their steamrolling style, to get back to their rule book, keep their heads low, and focus on winning those team fights with a mastermind performance. Well played for Cloud9 Academy, but this does confine Evil Geniuses to a 2 wins, 5 losses, tying them up with Golden Guardians Academy for that 8th, 9th place position.
That was a wild game, Coco, because it looked like Evil Geniuses had a chance, but they were never getting that gold lead, and it was simply because of the top lane alone. Darshan, I don't know if he Flame Horizon. I actually want to see the stats afterwards, but he definitely had a monstrous gold lead over on Tony Top. And even though Evil Geniuses got some team fight wins and got into the game, the moment Darshan shows up, it's over. Cloud9 are winning every team fight afterwards.
Mostly, yeah. Like, it's not because Darshan became an influential piece of those fights, but because he was just this giant stat check that Evil Geniuses had to address. Like, the positioning, a lot of Sternfire, King, and Isles doing what they do best in finding those positions, getting the beautiful bullet times, Isles peeling and creating that space for Sternfire to do his work. And Copy and Darshan were the ones that said, I see you do not have your mythic item yet. You know what that means. Back to solitary confinement for you, Mr. Tony Top, as the rest of the team just did what we love to see from Cloud9 Academy, bumping themselves up as well. This is where, I have nothing else to say, but well done, and an expected result and a dominant performance from Cloud9 Academy.
We're going to throw it to a short break. When we return, we will have an interview. Well, actually, we have an interview right now. They're already ready. We have a player from Cloud9 joining us for the Verizon Sternfire interview of the game.
All right.
All right, welcome, Sternfire. Thank you for joining us. All right, impressive game to go through. First of all, that was a little bit wild with what was going on in the top lane. What was your priority in terms of influencing which lane and how much attention to give it?
I mean, there was no influence this game, honestly. Every time I wanted to do something, something bad happened, so then I would have to wait for my turn again to do something, and then eventually laning phase just ended. So I guess this game I didn't get to do anything besides outfarm the enemy jungle.
Yeah, well, that and Darshan as well, really showing his colors. Both you and him, I think, cumulatively, were definitely Flame Horizon both of your opponents in the farming department. So well done on that one. But this sort of leads into a different state of now pretty much it's you and Team Liquid Academy fighting for that top bout. And if I recall correctly, I don't think you guys have faced just yet.
No, we haven't.
I think you guys face. Yeah. Is it tomorrow that you face off against each other, or is it next week? I think it's next week.
Next week.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, then I'd have to say, what's your thoughts currently against Team Liquid Academy as you prepare for that in the next coming week? Then.
I think they're definitely the next best team to beat, but tomorrow we verse FlyQuest, and I think they also had a decent showing against them. I think they versed TL today.
Today they were against 100 Thieves today.
100 Thieves. All right, my bad. Well,
Yeah.
I think right now, like, probably they're the next best team to beat, and I reckon that,
Okay.
their top jungler's also pretty good. Um, Bob Jenkins was my teammate last year. He's improved a lot, so um, I just want to see how we do. I'm pretty sure we have the upper hand, but we'll see what happens.
Okay, well, with such a heavy schedule to close you guys out for the Academy split, any fighting words for FlyQuest and Team Liquid Academy that you want to close out with?
Fighting words. What I will say is that I'm in my bed. I'm in Tran's bedroom, my manager's bedroom. Very resourceful. we 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 uh we were stuck getting this interview done, so we finally got this interview done, and we're gonna get the games done too. I think, with C9's backing, honestly, I feel like, life is just so easy. All I have to do is play the game, so I feel like it's just gonna be up down to the process, and I feel like our process is better than other teams right now.
Okay, well, you're going to clean up and tidy up the rest of the competition just like you did with the bedroom. So thank you so much, Sharon Fire, for coming on for the interview today, and good luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, that's going to do it. A nice win coming in from Cloud9, but that was the final game of the day. We're all ready to close out here, Coco.
Yeah, I think I'm just, I kind of cleaned up my bed. Not as well as Sharon Fire. I'm still practicing my farming mechanics and clear speed so far. But with that, it's something where going into tomorrow, we still have tiebreakers to deal with, Destrix, and that's going to be another mountain to climb to deal with going forward to really wrap up this season. Because I have to reiterate, this is consequential for which teams are going to be going into the first tier 1 and the second tier 1 academy amateur tournaments. And that's something where you're looking at Golden Guardians and Evil Geniuses to sort out that bout of the 8th and 9th place position. CLG is squarely now in that 10th place spot, so at least that's been figured out. But now we have a 3-way tie for 5th place, with Immortals, Dignitas, and TSM Academy now having to break that tiebreaker, and those will be the teams that will determine whether we are going to be going for a top-heavy bracket of a lot of 5 wins, 4 losses, or if we're going to be seeing a lot of the 4-win, 5-loss sets with a lower end really trying to compete for the final sprint that will happen in week 5.
And if you want to see what the results of those are going to be, you better tune in tomorrow at 2 p.m. to see some of these ties get broken, some of these records, some heroes try and rise to the occasion. This is going to do it here for the casting desk. My name has been Eric Desrux Batran, followed by my co-caster. It is Cole, Coco the Dragon Dambly. I want to thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time on LCS Academy.